as I was introduced, I am James Olsen. I'm running for the office of Representative, 23rd Legislative District, Position 2. I've run for this position before, but I am undaunted. I am running again and running very, very hard. One of the things that I describe myself on this iteration, and it doesn't mean that I've done Mitt Romney, changing my positions one way or another, but as a refinement, I consider myself a reform conservative. Now, people see Olsen signs everywhere. Trust me, they do. They're here and there. But people, besides just saying James Olsen, what do I stand for? And Mr. Luke out here said, well, you've got to put something as to what you stand for, which I'm proceeding to do on my large signs. So anyway, that's my new real reform. And the suggestion in that is that Mr. Hansen is either for bad reform or no reform. And I think it's both of them. No, actually, I think he's just for no reform. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you ladies. You are the bedrock that for the Republican Party, the grassroots people who keep the flame alive between the election cycles and support the candidates when they come up. As far as this race goes, there's one mantra, and in politics, winning is the only thing. There's no second place, there's no third place. You've got to win, and I'm fighting to win. A little quick background on myself, and some of you have heard this before, so I'll gloss over this part of it. I believe I have a unique skill set between my work experience in the private sector and my government work 30 years in the Coast Guard. And I think that gives me a unique characteristic to represent the 119,000 people in the 64 square mile 23rd Legislative District. In the areas of my personal skill set, to be modest, I believe I am smart. I've got an inquisitive mind. I do a lot of reading, do a lot of papers, run through newspapers, periodicals, this and that. So I know the details. I'm also hardworking. My wife knows I'm hardworking. But I'm hardworking for my family. And when politics kicks in, no matter how much I promised her, it was going to be a slow bell and just file and not do anything. No, I'm working hard in this campaign. Another attribute I have is I'm resolute. If I put my mind to something, I take no prisoners. I'll get to that goal. I'm not saying I'm going to win, but I'm resolute as far as giving it my all. And as far as attributes, second to last is I'm compassionate. I'm a Catholic. I care a lot about, an extremely great deal about the most needy in our country and in our 23rd Legislative District. And I will work hard for that voice. I'm not an elitist, and I'm not working for the people who are in the Washington Athletic Club. And finally, my attribute is I know no fear. And I don't know any political fear, but it reminds me of my son who knows no fear with his mountain biking. And when I see a mountain bike, it scares the hell out of me. So I'm sure some people see the know no fear political side of me and cringe. My work experience, civilian-wise, my wife and I built a series of investment properties that we rent out to low, affordable housing, as affordable as we can make it in the People's Republic of Seattle and Bainbridge Island. And we've been doing that for 30 or 40 years. I know regulations, I know the danger of regulations, that's why I'm a free market, small government individual. If government could run as neatly as I try to run my own business, I have no problem, and I expect that out of government. It's my money we're spending. And finally, as far as my background, Coast Guard, 30 years, 6 commanding officer positions, led people, naval coastal warfare, oil pollution, you name it, I seem to do it. And my quip about that is I know how to lead people, I know how to follow superiors and listen to those below me, and I know when to be insubordinate. And I will be insubordinate when I get to Olympia as far as shaking things up. The big thing I want to do going to Olympia, however, is to reform and streamline. My opponent plays small ball. He sounds like a guidance counselor at the community college talking about little piddly bills that he does, supposedly creating jobs, and they don't. They just are things that he could put on his resume. Excuse me, I want to play big ball and cause a reform and form a reform coalition of Republicans and Democrats and change Washington. So I'm going to take you through just like 3 areas that I went through with the editorial board, and they're going to weigh heavily in the next 7 weeks having to do with elections as far as hopefully galvanizing voters to wake up. And they have a great deal to do with the health and welfare of Washington State and here the 23rd. Washington State Ferry. Washington State Ferry is obviously critical to the vitality and success of Kitsap and all points west, as well as the whole state. The problems are well known, but they're just swept under the rug with mumbo-jumbo and various flim-flam. That's not acceptable. Washington State apologist, Mr. Hansen being the chief cheerleader for that, says, well, 99% of the ferry rides are uneventful. Well, the reality is the senior leadership at the Washington State Ferry is incompetent or corrupt. The positions are vacant in their operations and their top guy. Although I read that the Pierce County Transit Authority person was just placed in charge of the ferry terminal. We'll see. The fleet is old. It's aging. It's breaking down. It's not being maintained. While I was campaigning, I get little taps on the window. I'm trying to sleep. I'm asked to sleep in 30 minutes back and forth from Seattle. And it'll be one of the deckhands. Give you a thumbs up. And I roll the window down. Thank you for the thumbs up. And they tell me how hosed up the ferry service is. You know, how the captains are not happy. Their bosses are not listening to what the captains of the ships are concerned with, handling and whatnot. The Washington State Ferry has proven itself over and over again to be incompetent in designing vessels. Various safety issues loom large. I mean, should we be troubled by the fact that we had a weigh anchor out in the harbor here the other day? Yeah, we should be. And that vessel's going back for 6 months of rewiring or something like that. That's not good. The managers in the ferry service, they don't lead, they don't control their staff. Ferries are canceled because people don't show up. In the military, that doesn't happen. Well, it does happen, but it happened once. But the unions are way too strong. I'm not bashing unions, although I frequently sound like I am. But the unions, the rate of increase for the unions over the last 14 years has been double the rate of inflation. That's not good. And finally, it said of Mussolini, I think it was Mussolini, that at least he made the trains run on time. That is not a good excuse for the Washington State Ferry to avoid reforms. Now, quick reforms. Find a director of ops, find a planning director, and not a political hack. Show leadership and tenacity in ferreting out managers who do not support reform. Find long-term revenue. Okay, pet one. 30 seconds. Viger Industries over in Seattle. They're the sole competitor to build Washington State ferries. Just a coincidence, Viger also gave Mr. Hansen $1,000. Oh, and Ms. Appleton $1,000. That's because the Democrats very much want the vessels to be built only in Washington State so they can get the union payback for that. I say build the vessels wherever it's cheapest in the country. The Navy does not build the vessels in the home district of the commandant or that local admiral. They build them down in the right-to-work states down south where they can do it cheapest. And that's what we need to do here. And I'm going to hammer Mr. Hansen on that when we go to exit issues. And also finally, we need to demand workers to show up and get Washington State out of the vessel design. Moving along, concern number 2 is education. Washington State has serious flaws in the education system. 40% of the kids drop out. There's poor performance. And I'm not talking about Bainbridge, because people here are blinded by, oh, we've got all type A parents and terrific performance here on Bainbridge. Talking about statewide. The resistance to innovation comes from the WEA, the Washington Educational Association, and the NEA, the National Educational Association. The biggest donor to campaigns in Washington State is the Washington State Educational Association. Trust me, I did not get any money from them, and Mr. Hansen and Appleton both did. The Washington Supreme Court, much to my sadness or chagrin, is in the business of thinking they're legislative. They've got suits on, no, they've got robes on. Nevertheless, they've got the education system over a barrel with a clear decision saying that the legislators have to come up with $4 billion to properly fund education. While I'm not one to let Frank Chop, the Democratic Speaker of the House, out of a contempt citation, I do believe that we should not necessarily pull the trigger on the legislators yet as far as their failure. However, the reform that I believe in for education is number one. We need to schedule a special session in 2015. The special session for one reason. Gay marriage? No. Legalization of pot? No. Some other harebrained plan? No. Take care of the funding of education. If they don't have a special session, I do believe what they need to do is, when they start a session, their first regular session, the first order of business, head of line privilege goes to funding education. You fund education to what they need to get, and the rest of the money gets divided up between the other programs. The Democrats howl at that prospect. They don't like it. They say we need the income tax and other solutions. I say that's what we need to do, is fund education first. We need to institute educational reform, getting more money to the teachers. Our teachers can be paid more, should be paid more. Good teachers should be paid more. Bad teachers should be riveted. You know, they should just get rid of them. And we'll finally, as far as education, we need to use 21st century innovations. And those involve uses of the internet, Khan Academy for teaching state-of-the-art, world-class mathematics instruction to anywhere in the state for free when you got a computer hookup. We need to do things like that. Everything can't be just brand new green schools. Anyway. Okay, and the final thing on education is, the answer is not, and never has been, to do the same process and just throw $4 billion into it again. That's insane. And that's typically the Democratic mantra for anything, is more money will solve the problem. The problem is not money, it's what money you have to spend. Okay, just moving real quickly to transportation issues. Ben Franklin's aphorism, a stitch in time saves nine. The key issue is the Washington State has severe infrastructure problems. We have the Skagit Bridge going down. They probably didn't take care of it, but nevertheless, it went down. Other bridges are failing. We've got that crazy Agate Pass bottleneck, you know, on 305, which is really a crime. There's a transportation bill that's been proposed. The Democrats have tried to run it through a number of times. The Republican Senate coalition has stopped. The problem with the bill is there's a gas tax. I don't like taxes. However, I will go for a gas tax if, in fact, the money is linked to projects that increase mobility, increase flow, help business, help citizens so they're not sitting in traffic. If it does those things, I would support that. You know, and then no light rail, no more Big Bertha digs. I understand Big Bertha yesterday, after $200 million repair, moved ahead 3 feet. This is crazy. It's emblematic. Or the light rail system that they have over in Seattle. No beautification projects. I like bicycles. My son's an avid bicycle rider. He'd probably throw something at me. You heard this. We don't need bicycle paths. We need roads, actual roads, pavement built. The reforms for the Washington State Department of Transportation, they need reform. Public-private partnerships, union labor issues. What they do is they screw around, they set a prevailing wage, union wage, for work for the Seattle area, and they project it over Eastern Washington. That is too high a wage to pay out there. It's just unnecessary. You know, it just is. Public-private partnerships. Furthermore, on Washington State project, you do $1 billion project, they pay sales tax on it. Talk about churning the account. That's insane. Final thing, because those are my 3 issues. Now this is a big one, and Governor Inslee has got this thing. He proposed his carbon fuel reduction standards that he's proposing to do. Secret. He's made these compacts with various California, Oregon, I think British Columbia, probably North Korea, who knows where else, but all these other places promising to drive down Washington State's carbon emissions. And in order to do that, we're going to have this new kind of super fuel. And the super fuel, to make it, is going to cost an additional $1.25 to $22 a gallon to get to this new thing. When questioned about why Inslee was going to do something like that, he said, well, you know, it's important that we show we're serious. He's a jihad. I call it like a green jihad. His green orthodoxy is absolutely crazy. And you know what we would do to the state economy to have $1 to $22 more a gallon tax? It's absolutely crazy. Okay, so in conclusion, I'm going to do Sunday morning programs. They talk about rapid fire. You know, they always get these people. You can never get Obama to do a rapid fire. You know, it's one answer. and 20 minutes later it's filibustering. But I'm going to just do a real quick rapid fire. And I got this from 2 appearances I had with the good Mr. Hansen, the Seattle editorial board, and yesterday with the Kitsap Sun. It was very illuminating. But anyway, it will be up on the big screen as far as yesterday's one soon. Okay, Olsen is for free markets. Hansen believes more government. Olsen for reform of the state ferries, the Department of Transportation, DSHS. Hansen, government needs more money. I support the 2/3 supermajority. Hansen is adamantly opposed to the 2/3 supermajority on fiscal issues. I vehemently oppose, as Mr. Hendon does, state income tax. Hansen, and his party chomp at the bit for the state income tax to bail them out of that shortfall when they take care of education, and they still want to do everything that they want to do. I call for excellence in education. He takes money from the WA and the NEA. I oppose 594, the gun initiative. The gun initiative as a gun grab. Mr. Hansen supports it and proudly says that he had some part in getting that drafted. I support First Amendment religious freedom rights having to do with people who are paying their insurance being able to not have their religious values compromised. Hansen is endorsed by the National Abortion Rights League, NARROW, and Planned Parenthood, and all those good things. My race is funded by the good small contributions, and that's fine by me. Hansen is flooded with special interest trial lawyer money and various and union paymaster money. Finally, back to my theme here. I do believe that Olympia needs to reform. I want to play big ball. Mr. Hansen wants to play little ball. I will make this case to the voters. If we get voter turnout, I believe that will resonate with them. I'm concerned about the middle class, the working middle class, and by making those reforms, that in fact will do it. So thank you for your kind attention, and who knows how long I went. I never got things started, so thank you.